Hey, how's it going guys? Welcome back for another card review. So my computer is finally back up and running once again, and it's about due time I do a card review for the 8 Xian series. Right, so in this video I'm going to go through all the non-jackpot cards only, right, and then pardon me if I pronounce any 8 Xian characters name wrongly. Right, so anyway, we're going to go through the first card here, which is Lan Cai He. So this is one of the non-jackpot cards, right? This will be one of the few cards that you will get every now and then if you're trying to draw for your jackpot cards. Right, so Lan Cai He, CD 5. So for 2 rounds, touch as you spin your runes, right? 5 runes will, as you spin, right, those 5 runes that you have come across will transform into water, and dark will transform into light. So this is a 2-round effect. So this card kinds of it's kind of like a semi-converter, just that you have to spend a few, maybe like 1 second for you to convert the whole board of fire and dark into water and light respectively. Right, so I would say that it's quite situational card, more suited for a light or water hybrid setup. Right, so another example can be Su Huan Zhen, right, which uses light runes to attack as well. Light runes having effect of water. Right, so Lan Cai He can be a additional member for Su Huan Zhen, right, if you guys really play Su Huan Zhen a lot. Right, so other than that, I think this card is one of like the more niche pick. It is not meta changing card. Right, so anyway, it's a non-jackpot card, so you're bound to have at least maybe one of it in your inventory. Right, so let's move on to the next card. Right, so here we are having the second card of the day. So Cao Guo Jiu. Right, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It's the second card here, right, for review. So CD 6, this guy is relatively fast charging as well. Right, so in 1 round, inactivate all enemy and change them into fire attribute. So this is like more of a crowd control card, right? So while changing into fire, something like Magnus active skill. Right, so when the skill effect is in play, enemy defense is ignored by 80%. Right, so in my opinion, I think this is one of the more useful non-jackpot cards, right, that you guys might consider to draw or actually aim for. Especially because it have this crowd control effect, which actually gives you 1 additional turn for you to prep whatever that you need. Right, on top of that, it changes the monster's attribute into fire. Right, so in some occasions, right, for example, like the Ubume's ultimate stage that we had not too long ago, right, the mob is actually water and you have Tetris shield, and you have to feed the Tetris shield of attribute of that particular monster. Right, so if you were to change it to fire, you have to feed fire runes instead of whatever of the mob's original attribute. Right, so in some cases that changing the monster's attribute is actually useful. And on top of that, enemies' defense is ignored by 80%. Right, not as powerful as what we have for the power release Firekeeper, which totally ignores the enemy defense, but this is nonetheless a very good amount of defense being ignored. Right, 80% is quite massive, and this is a non-jackpot card. Right, so in my opinion, I think Cao Guo Jiu here is the best, in my opinion, best non-jackpot card within the 8 Xian series. Right, so with that said, let's move on to the next card. Right, so the third card of the day is Zhong Li Quan. Right, active skill is at CD 6, so all these cards have relatively low CD, which makes them very usable. Right, so let's take a look at the active skill. It converts water runes into enchanted fire runes. For 1 round, all member attack ×2 against fire enemies. Right, so this is also one of the more situational card. Right, it is not useless in the sense that if you were to play, let's say, some sort of ultimate stage that requires you to play a mono fire team, right? So firstly, you have an enchanted rune convert, which is always a plus points than the non-enchanted one. Right? And then for 1 round, all member attack ×2 against fire enemies. Right? So these all members include earth cards. Right? So for 1 round, you can actually have your earth cards deal ×2 damage against fire enemies. Right? So this is more like a improve active skill, right? Somehow to bypass fire enemies for earth cards. So one of the more niche pick once again. So let's move on to the next card of the day. Alright, so next card will be Han Xiangzi. Right, so this is also a CD5 card. So you can see that the skill is a pretty long chunk of essay here. Right, so let me read it out. CD5 randomly converts 5 runes into enchanted earth god runes. So once again, we have an enchanted convert right here, plus raised runes. So on top of that, this is going to deal pretty much a lot of damage, right, because of the enchant plus the raised runes. So this is taken hard runes into priority first, so which is kind of a downside in my opinion, because usually cards like maybe Hideyoshi actually converts away light and dark for priority, right, leaving the hard runes aside for you to actually heal. Right, but I guess it's fine because of the second part of this active skill. For 1 round, for every 1 god rune dissolved at the first batch, the team recovers 3000 HP. So to the max, you can recover 90,000 HP for 30 god runes dissolved. Right, it's kind of impossible for you to dissolve 30 god runes unless you're running like an Amaterasu setup. Right, then you can possibly do a healing of 90,000. Right, if not, it is pretty much impossible for you to do so. Right, so having said that, Amaterasu here can actually use Han Xiangzi to kind of bypass any small little overheal shield. Right, so for example, this current transmigration that we have this Nihawk with 100,000 overheal. Right, so you can see 90,000 pretty much bypass, almost bypass the full overheal shield. Right, so in a sense that it is more optional once again. Right, so you can see here most of these non-jackpot cards are optional, and it's very situational as when these cards are going to be put in use. Right, so nonetheless, it's a jackpot card. You should have it in your inventory, right, if you attempt to draw the 8 Xian series. Right, so let's move on to the last card of the day. Alright, so the last and final card of the non-jackpot 8 Xian series is Zhang Guolao. Right, so this guy is going to be having the longest CD out of all the non-jackpot cards, CD9. So why is it CD9? Because I see it having very similar active skill as Pupero, right, from the elf card. I can't remember which series it is, but Pupero, you know Pupero. So for 1 round, self-attack ×9, no sharing with other members. When there are enemy defeated upon the round of the skill activation, all 8 Xian members except himself, minus CD2. So in my opinion, I think that this card could have been better if it minus CD2 for himself as well, because of his super long cooldown, which is CD9. Right, on top of that, all the other 8 Xian series, right, including the jackpot cards, are having cooldown lesser than CD9, which means that when this card is ready and up for you to use, right, most likely you can activate the other 8 Xian members, right, because after activating Zhang Guolao here, it's gonna reduce 2 CD for all the 8 Xian members in your team. Right, so here is one of the more damage dealing active skill, right, in which I feel that in the 8 Xian series it is very necessary for you to have at least some sort of damage dealing card like this, because overall I feel like the 8 Xian series isn't very high on damage output, right, so you kind of rely on cards like Zhang Guolao, self-attack ×9 to actually boost up the overall damage output. Right, so in my opinion, I think this is all these cards are supposed to play in sync with each other, right? In a way. So yeah, that's all for this card review for this non-jackpot series, right? So in a separate video, I'll do the jackpot cards, which is Li Tieguai, Lu Dongbing, and Han Xiangzi, not Han Xiangzi, whatever, right? I'll just go through it in the next video, right? So for now, these are all my opinions for these 5 non-jackpot cards, right? So as I mentioned earlier, Zhang Guojiu, is it? Did I pronounce that correctly? Cao Guojiu, sorry. Cao Guojiu is like the most useful card in my opinion, right? So make sure you grab that before this series is gone, right? So with that, hopefully you guys enjoy another series of card review, and hopefully this gives you more insight on the cards and whether or not you should draw them. So with this, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and as usual, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.